Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the annual Research Conference Wednesday keynote. I'm happy to see your smiling faces, and I want to let you know you're in for a real treat today. As you know, and probably why you're here, our keynote is Elizer Darris. And yeah, let's give it up for him a little bit. Elizer is not only our keynote, but he's also an alumni and alumni of the year. I could say a lot of things about Eli. Very community focused, very hardworking, family man. His family is also in the back, came to support him. But Eli is the founder of Darris Group and also the executive director of the Minnesota Freedom Fund. I'm gonna let him talk about himself. But yes. Thank you, Eli, for being here.
All righty, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite. And so you all can hear me, the sound is clear, we're good to go? All right, well, I'm gonna dive in. My lovely daughter back there is saying good morning to everyone. So thank you all for inviting me back to the campus. Really honored to be here. Honored to have been selected as the alum of the year. Honored to be able to give the commencement address coming up as well. So just honored all the way across. And to have obtained my degree from here. It was really meaningful for me at the time that I acquired it. It meant a lot. And actually we'll go into, I'll go deeper into why it meant so much to me. But before we go there, let me frame up the talk that we're about to have. This talk is centered around building a life of purpose and impact, deep impact, meaningful impact. But before I go there, let me tell you all a little bit about who I am, because if I'm going to be standing here talking to you about building a life of impact, certainly I should qualify myself to be able to even speak on the subject of impact. Have I made enough of an impact or any impact at all in order to communicate to you all about the science of building a life of impact? So I'll talk to you all about my journey, my life, my struggles, the things that I've overcome, the things that I'm still dealing with. I'll give you all insight into all of that. So right now, as Marika has stated, I'm an executive director of the Minnesota Freedom Fund. I'm an executive board member over multiple organizations, including the Black Chamber of Commerce here in Minnesota, so the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a registered lobbyist as well with the Chamber, so the Capitol sees me a lot as I lobby hard on behalf of the interests of Black businesses across the state of Minnesota. I've been appointed by the governor over various boards, the State Board of Public Defense being one of the more recent ones. The State Board of the Public Defense are over every last single public defender in the entire state. Some odd decades ago, they converged all of the disparate public defense offices under the auspices of one department. And based on that, they put 7 board members over the entire system of public defense, and the governor appointed me to that. I also consult with a lot of governments, both local and state level governments. I do a lot of consulting. I'm an international fellow. I'm an Echoing Green fellow. Really challenging fellowship, but it's because of some of the social justice oriented businesses that I've helped to build up. Recently, I was a presidential elector, so I was one of, how many do we have? 13, I think? One of 13 presidential electors representing the state of Minnesota in the DFL convention, in the DNC convention, and nationally as a national presidential elector. Minnesota is one of the states that binds its delegates to the popular vote, so I cast my electoral vote for Kamala Harris. I founded nonprofits, including the Legal Revolution. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a Harvard Fellow most recently. As a matter of fact, we have a convening coming up tonight in which we're bringing an entire new crop of Harvard Fellows through the Young American Leadership Program. I'm also a strategic advisor, and pointedly, and you know, what makes me most proud, I'm a husband and a father. My daughter is back there making sure that everyone knows that she's here, that she's woke, and that she is happy. Say hi, Nia. Okay, no highs are coming, but that's okay. And these are some pictures of me doing some of those things. And I'm going to be a little stationary, you all, because, you know, this is being live streamed. Typically, I would be moving around. I'll move around a little bit, but you all should expect for me to kind of stay within a certain parameter for the purposes of this talk. But this is some pictures of me doing some of those things. Now, can you all take a guess at where I was 8 years ago today? Just take some guesses.
Probably here.
Here, over in the dorms over there. Yeah. 8 years ago today, where was I? And anyone who has read ahead of time and know my story, please don't comment. 8 years ago today, where was I? Just throw some stuff out there. Now, sometimes I do trainings with the rookies of the Minnesota Vikings for the past 3 years. They've all had to go through my decision-making training. It's a required course through the NFL. And some of the stuff that them dudes say, I mean, it just would take me just aback, right? And so I've heard it all, right? 8 years ago today, where do you all think I was? Grad school. Which one?
Harvard.
Harvard fellow. Well, I am a Harvard fellow. 8 years ago.
Probably somewhere in the States.
In the contiguous United States? Well, yeah, definitely. I was here for sure. So 8 years ago today, I was incarcerated. I was on the tail end of serving nearly 2 decades in prison. I was arrested as a juvenile and sentenced to life in prison. Now, life actually means what? Maybe, if you're lucky, if you get paroled. But life means what? It means life. What does it really mean? That's right. So it means what? Death. So as a juvenile, I was sentenced to spend, as the judge said, the rest of my natural life in the care of the Commissioner of Corrections. Gavel. Die. As a teenager, I was 15 years old when I was arrested. And in Minnesota, what they don't do is they don't take you and put you off to the side, let you do a bunch of push-ups and jumping jacks, or pop some spinach in your mouth like Popeye and get bigger and stronger before they put you in with the big boys. They put you in there immediately. Whether you're 14, whether you're 15, whether you're 16, if you are certified as an adult for a capital level offense, you're going into the big boy prison. And that's where I found myself as a teenager, incarcerated with adults. Told that I would spend the rest of my natural life in the care of the Commissioner of Corrections. And so I know a little bit about the darkness that can overtake a mind in the midst of despair, in the midst of hopelessness, in which you can't see a pathway forward. There's no end point really for you, right? I know the darkness that can envelop a soul in those types of conditions. I know a little bit about that. I live that. I have friends that never made it to the other side of that. So I'm intimately familiar with hopelessness, lack of directionality, deep-rooted and deep-seated anxiety, not knowing what the next day is going to bring, not having agency and not having control. I know what that can do to a mind. I lived it. I've been there. I swim deep in those waters. And quite frankly, if you think about it, my story could have easily ended there. Obviously, I'm no longer there. Obviously, I didn't die in prison. I'm here. I'm standing in front of you right now. You all heard all of the accolades that I just got through talking about. Something changed. But my story could have ended there. And by all rights, in many, many, many instances, a story ends there. As a juvenile lifer, a runaway, I lived in St. Louis, Missouri, couldn't stand being home, decided that I wanted to do my own thing. I ran away from home with a carnival, traveled around the better part of the United States, as far south as Albuquerque, New Mexico, and as far north as Roseau, Minnesota, Jamestown, North Dakota, Amarillo, Texas, you name it, right? And a whole bunch of more points in between. I left home with a carnival, actually, a traveling carnival, a motley crew of individuals all running from something, all trying to find themselves inside of something other than the space and the place from which they derived. They wanted to get away. That's what united us. We were a motley crew, but that's what united us. We were all running from something. A junior high school dropout, not even a high school dropout. I never made it to high school. Not one single day. We could easily imagine, in the backdrop of these facts, there is no getting out of that for a young mind like that. 1,000 miles away from home. I had no family in Minnesota. I do now. I knew no one in Minnesota. No one at all. In fact, in the nearly 20 years that I served in prison here, I only saw my mother one time in almost 2 decades. One could easily imagine that for a young 15-year-old boy, the story stops there. The buck stops there. That's it. Lights out, curtains, dim them easily. But something changed, didn't it? Something radical and revolutionary changed, obviously, right? That's why I'm here, right? You see, I would not have been the first person to come in young and to leave old. This is Joseph Ligon. Joseph was arrested for a homicide when he was 15 years old. And you know what they told Joseph? After a few decades of incarceration, they said, listen, Joe, I'm gonna call him Joe. They said, listen, Joe, if you would just admit that you did this, we'll let you go. 10 years went by, 20 years went by, 30 years went by, 40 years went by. Did Joe ever say, okay, I did it. Can I just go home? Ever? No. 50 years went by. 60 years went by. That's a man of principle right there. He said, I'll die before I admit to something I know I didn't do. I didn't do that. I'll die first. Joe left prison. They ultimately was like, all right. He left prison at 83. Never admitted that he did what they said that he did. I wouldn't have been the first person to come in as a young boy and leave as an old man. Something radical and revolutionary happened in my life that fundamentally shifted my entire perspective. Everything about me changed. And as a result, I'm standing here with you all right now. So what stopped me from balling up and dying in the deepest, darkest pit any human could imagine? Imagine the pit that I was in. 15-year-old boy, 1,000 miles from home, sentenced to spend life in prison with grown men, violent men, angry men. Imagine how deep and dark that pit is. And how easy it would be to just fall and fall and fall and fall and embrace the darkness, in fact, because it's easy. Certainly easier than fighting to get to the light, I'll tell you that much. What do you all think was my saving grace in those conditions? Just throw some stuff out there. What do you all think was a saving grace, a saving power for me in those conditions with that backdrop?
Education.
Somebody said education? Who said that? That's what I'm talking about. What are you studying?
Nursing.
Nursing? Okay. Education. That's a great one. What else?
A mentor?
Who said that? Have you been studying my story? That's a good one. That's a phenomenal one. What else?
One of the more obvious answers would be religion.
Religion? Okay.
That's a common one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good saving power for many. What else? Oh, y'all shy this morning. Okay, what time is it? Oh, it's almost 10:30. We should be good to go. They had coffee and refreshments, right? We should be good to go. Books? Oh my God, books. Books were such a saving power for me. I'm gonna tell y'all just like this. I was mentored in there by giants. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant men. Men of towering character who looked at me. Oh, it's working now? Oh, yay, the camera's working. Let's give it up for the camera. Let's give it up for the camera. Brilliant men who looked at the boy that I was and saw beyond the ungainly, rocky exterior. They looked at me and they saw me. They didn't see what I was projecting out, right? A facade that I was trying to keep people up off of me with, especially in those conditions. They saw me. And what they did was to help me have audience with myself, to help me get to know myself. Now, there were some very specific ways that they went about doing it. And many of you have said exactly what those ways are. So kudos to you all. You all are being trained up quite well here at Inver Hills, I see. Y'all know what they told me? Read that. What did they tell me?
You don't have to die in here.
They said, you don't got to die in here. They said that. And y'all know what? I believe them. I believe that I didn't have to die in there. One of my mentors said, you know you don't have to die in here, right, youngster? Hit the books. Get up in that law library. Study. Educate your mind. You don't have to die in here. I believe them. Okay. Who in here is studying math? Okay. Who's in a math class right now? Okay, we got a couple people in a math class right now. I'll take that, right? I'll take that. So help me out here. The distance all the way around a circle is called what?
Circumference.
The circumference. Good job. Good job. I knew it. See, Inver Hills is training you up well. The distance from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle is called the what? The diameter. Right? That's it. That's all the math for now. I promise, right? One of you all's professors came into the prison once and taught me a way of remembering the quadratic equation that I'll never forget it for the rest of my life now. She was like, you all know the nursery rhyme, all around the merry-go-round, the monkey chased the weasel. So she was like, well, look, x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'll never forget it now. I'll never forget it, right? But that's all the math for now. Here's what I was taught by them giants. They said, he who controls the diameter of your thinking literally controls the circumference of your actions. If I can control what goes in between those two little things on the side of your head, I control everything about you. How you move, how you think, how you dress, how you identify yourself. I know all of us humans like to think that we are so unique and so original and so ruggedly individual, especially within our westernized culture. I am me and you are you. Now, that certainly couldn't be true, or we wouldn't have a field like psychology, anthropology, sociology, in which we study human behavior, in which human behavior is so predictable that we can model it. We can literally create predictive models that are so incredibly accurate, it would take your breath away. It's part of the reason why they build prisons more so than schools in certain areas, because they're seeing a certain trajectory, and the expectation is that the human mass within those specific areas are going to track this way. If it wasn't true, they wouldn't spend millions of dollars just to capture 30 seconds of your attention during the Super Bowl. Millions. 30 seconds. They have projected that a certain number of you would be responsive based off of their modeling, focus groups, whatever they would have done, because we're not as unique as we think we are. We're not as individual as we think that we are. And that's why, if I can control what goes in your mind, I predict that I can control everything about you. How you think, how you speak, how you dress, even though you think that it's all individual and unique to you. But look to the person to the left and to the right. That's your buddy. You may look, dress similar, talk similar, use similar phraseology. Who created that? Who created the look, the feel that you have? Where did that come from? Whose mind was that generated inside of? And does that mind, wherever it is, whether it's a Harvard lab or wherever, does that mind care about you and your existence and your future? If I can control what goes in you, I control everything about you. And the same is true in the adverse. If you control what goes in your mind, you better control your outcomes. That's what they taught me. They taught me to start questioning everything. And they told me to be more mindful of what I'm mentally consuming, because it becomes me. That's what they taught me. I believe them. They said, to someone's point, educate your mind. How many people in here plan to get a degree in education? How many? You getting a PhD in? Okay, that's what's up. How many? For those of you all who are advanced in this like you, don't answer this, right? I'm gonna ask you all a question. What are the Latin origins of the term educate? What does it mean in its origins? And if you know it, don't say it. Well, if you are on this track of education, don't say it. But if you generally know it, then please tell me. What is the Latin origins of educate? What does it mean? Here's a Latin word right here. Y'all should take a picture of that. Anybody seen that word? You seen it? You know what it is? This is educare, right? And that means to lead out or to bring forth, right? So that means it's already where? Inside of you. So in its essence, to educate someone is to do what? It's to help them bring out what's in them. Now, in the West, what we teach is that if I, as a professor, as a teacher, go to the board and I write down a whole bunch of factual information, that the closer you can memorize what I wrote, the more educated you are. Now, that's the difference, in my opinion, between memorization, in which you're memorizing a whole lot of information, versus intellectualization, in which you are challenging yourself to think, to understand. To educate someone is to bring out of them and to help them come into their humanity. You see, my job is to teach you how to think, not what to think. Now, if you give me Jeopardy facts, you say, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves at 18, that's cool. But I want to know that if I put you in a situation in which you must think, that you will have the intellectual rigor necessary to think your way out of that thing. To educate someone is to bring out of them who they already are. The American Heritage Dictionary defines the word educate as to develop the innate capacities of. Look it up, the American Heritage Dictionary. What does innate mean? Say it. Within. Innate means born with. That's a scary way of looking at it, huh? To develop the capacities you were born with. To help you have audience with yourself. That's what my job as an educator is. Now, I know that's revolutionarily different than what we've been taught, but it is the Latin origins of the word. I didn't make that up. That's not me. It's the essence of what it means to begin to take dominion and control over your surroundings. They told me to educate my mind, and I did that. Oh, I studied day in and day out. I studied. It was crucial to me that I allowed myself the time and the space to study everything. I mean, any book I could, this is before Google, any book I could get my hands on, devouring it. Became an autodidactic, educated person in there. Long before I even came to Inver Hills as a student in prison. So by the time I was able to enroll, I was ready to go to war with professors. I was the contrarian too, right? Straight contrarian. Whatever the professor was, I was going to be the opposite, right? If they was liberal, I was conservative, right? Prove it to me. Allow me to test your theories. I needed that in my life. I needed that level of intellectualization. I had some deep stuff I needed to think my way out of, so I needed rigor to do it. These are actually real pictures. That's me. These are real pictures of me actually attending Inver classes from prison. Real pictures. I don't even know how we got these out, but shoot. And you all are the first audience that I've ever allowed to see these pictures. Don't take pictures of them because they're going to want to do investigate. They don't care if it was 20 years ago. They're going to want to investigate how they get the camera in there, how they get the pictures out. So don't worry about the how. Just know this is literally me inside of prison right now. This is actually one of my mentors. His name is Willie Lloyd. That's my guy, Koo. I just wrote to him. This picture is literally 2 decades old, easily. 20 years ago. I look exactly the same, too. Maybe a couple more gray hairs, thanks, Nia. Maybe a couple more gray hairs, but, I think I look basically the same. Do y'all know what my most powerful instrument was in there? I mean, some people in there, they got knives, they got all kind of stuff. My most powerful tool in there, by far, was my pen. They say the pen is mightier than a sword. My God, I used to put my pen on them. I used to be like, are you going to violate my rights? Wait a minute. Grievances, lawsuits, you name it, I'm at it, right? Powerful tool, powerful tool. They told me, get in a law library and study law. Now, law, by the way, you all, is written in a language that only 3 populations use on earth. Lawyers, priests, and doctors. And what language is that? Latin. In order to truly understand, that's why I asked you all the Latin origins. I mean, I swim deep in the world of the Latin language. In order to truly understand law, you have to have a foundation in Latin. You got to be able to, when I say prima facie, you got to know what that is. When I say something as crucial as mens rea, you have to know what that is, because if they can't prove mens rea, then the whole case falls apart. But who knows what mens rea means? It means nothing to you, but to any lawyer or any judge, it is pivotal. You have to understand the language in order to truly take control over the thing. This is one of the reasons why it's dangerous to allow anyone to just speak into your life, right? Because words come before the actions, really. If you don't have the vocabulary, okay, I'll give you an example. Bernie Madoff had a Ponzi scheme. We all know that, right? $1 billion Ponzi scheme, right? Can you go out tomorrow? Now you know it existed, so you can know something exists and still not know how to do it. Can you all go out right now and replicate right now that Ponzi scheme? Now, if he sat, well, he can't do it now, but if he was here and he sat with you and gave you the words, you would then know how to do the Ponzi scheme. So this is why it's dangerous to allow people to speak thoughts into our lives, because it creates certain energies inside of us that wouldn't otherwise exist. So that's why we got to watch the people around us, and we got to capture and challenge these thoughts, no matter where they're coming from, whether it's TV, radio, movie, it don't matter where it's coming from. We have to be mindful and careful of the energies that is coming into our lives. But I'm going to tell y'all something. That pen was mighty. I started studying law. Monday, you could find me in a law library. Tuesday, you could find me in a law library. Wednesday and Thursday, you could find me in a law library. And where do you think you could find me on a Friday? Nah, I was on somebody's football field breaking ankles. But Monday came back around again, and I was right back in that law library. And y'all know something? I wish I had a pen right now. I took that pen after studying law for several years in there, and I wrote the brief that was submitted to the state Supreme Court that got my life sentence reversed on appeal. This is the power of education. Now, my lawyer also submitted her own brief. In fact, I asked her to bring up my issue. She refused. She didn't want my issues to detract from the saliency of her issues. She said, you raise it. It's called a supplemental pro se brief. In Latin, pro se means do yourself. She said, do it yourself. Fortunately for me, she did adopt my brief after I wrote it. So in the eyes of the court, it was hers. Every single issue she raised was denied. And the issue I raised is what they reversed and remanded on. So what does that teach you? If I would have put my life in her hands, where would I be?
You'd still be there.
I'll still be there. Dreaming like Selena, hoping, praying for my day of freedom. If I would have not aggressively pursued education and took the pen and used my power, I'll still be there. But I took the pen into my hand and I wrote my way out of hell. That's my favorite play too, by the way. Oh, I love that play. Me and Marika actually went to that play. That is my favorite play. Hamilton. I didn't watch the Disney thing. I didn't probably watch it like 30 times. Watched it a little bit last night, as a matter of fact. He said, I wrote my way out. A little bitty island. No one's really even heard of. Desolate, broken. Mom's gone, dad's gone, cousin's gone. Not great prospects for a good life here. And that boy started studying and educating his mind. And he said, I wrote my way out with my pen. And he used his pen in a mighty way and created a lot of the reality that we are existing in right now, hundreds of years later. That's the power of his pen. I'm trying to get to that level right there. Y'all want to know one of the primary lessons that these men taught me? Resilience. That my current state didn't have to be my permanency. They said if your reaction to adversity, it's your reaction to adversity, not the tough time itself, but how you respond to the tough time that's going to make or that's going to break you, right? Some of us lament having to go through challenges and say, why me? Or why not you? Steel is forged in fire. It burns off the impurities. If you're never tested, when you get to the space and the place in which there's going to be challenges and consequences, you'll fold, you'll break because your metal hasn't been tested. That's why tough times are a blessing. It gives you the opportunities to navigate, to see where you got to do some additional work as well, so that if and when that thing ever comes back again, I've been there before. I can lead us out of this. They're not something to run from. They're something to go through. And on the other side, you'll be better. You'll be stronger, better prepared, better equipped. They said, no matter where you are or what you've done, you can still make an impact in this world. I believed them. I believed them when they told me I can still make an impact. I was an elected official even inside of the joint. Even inside of prison, I was elected as a unit rep. So I was the voice of everyone against the administration, against their tyranny. I would take my pen and I would, in a minute, in a heartbeat, I will put that paper on you because I believed in the power of my pen. They taught me a brand of leadership that still serves me today, and it serves me so well. They taught me servant leadership. Leaders serve, right? This is what you do as a leader. You see your team and you figure out, what does my team need? And you go and get it, right? And if there's any slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune, as Shakespeare says, you take those. Yeah, I'll take those for my team. I want my team to be able to focus on what they're doing, their work. I'm their servant. My job is to go and get them the tools they need, the money they need, the energy, whatever they need. My job as leader, is to go and get them those tools. They taught me, in order to lead, you must serve. You got to serve your people. If you ain't talking about service, then you ain't talking about the kind of leadership I'm going to get behind. If I don't see you serving, and if I don't see you with a servant mentality and a heart for the people, I can't roll with you, and I will not roll with you. I don't need no bosses. Let's go together. I became a social justice activist based on everything that I learned and that I was taught inside of those facilities. I was fighting for justice in there. I was fighting against tyranny in there. I was fighting for policy changes in there. I was fighting against the machine in there. I was fighting for good and for justice in there. I didn't wait until I came home. That was my testing ground. That was my battleground. That was my petri dish. Where you all are right now, it's the testing ground. Not later, when I get my degree. No, it's now. Now, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I thought social justice activism was gonna be all like this. But in reality, it's a lot of computer screens and coalition meetings, building togetherness, building agreement. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. That's how you create something that's lasting with power. It's with people. I found my purpose in life. My purpose was to serve, to build, and to have an impact. All of that stuff that I showed on that other screen, all of these things, none of that is possible if I don't have a servant mentality. If I'm not looking to serve the people, I get no access to none of that stuff. None of it. No one would care. Who are you? You don't even have a servant's heart. You want to be seen. You want to be in a limelight. That's going to make you detestable. But if you want to build the type of leadership brand that people are willing to follow you to the pits of hell, serve them. And y'all can get mighty things done, even with a small band of brothers and sisters. So if you're seeking to have a life of impact, a life of meaning, a life of purpose, a life that matters, even irrespective of where you started it, you gotta serve. If I leave you with nothing else, serve the people. It'll pay off dividends time and time again. These are three key takeaways from this very brief talk, because I could talk for hours. Your current reality is not your final chapter. Where you all are right now, the testing grounds, this isn't it. This is the fire in which you're forging who you're going to be and how you're going to act when it's going to be a consequential times. And all of you will eventually face consequential times in which your foundation, your principles are going to be tested. How will you respond? Education is not just a tool. It's a launch pad that can take you to entirely different worlds. My wife and I, my daughter was just in Ghana a couple months ago. In fact, she turned 1 year old over there. Ghana. She has a passport with stamps in it. Actually, Maria helped me get my passport. I wasn't even thinking about getting no passport, right? And now I got stamps in it. My daughter wasn't even one, and already has been introduced to a quality of life I couldn't even dream of. I mean, heck, remember, y'all, I saw my mom once in 2 decades. Her life is different because I made a decision. I almost went into my decision-making training. That's what I do with the Vikings. That's coming up. But decisions are crucial. And so one day I might come and talk with y'all about the power of decisions. And real leadership starts with service. It all starts, begins, and ends with service. Think about those guys who came around me and who invested inside of me. They didn't have to. They wasn't paid a dime, a penny, no recognition, no awards came their way. Look at them dudes. They served me. They made me who I am today. They gave me countless books to read. I'm going to be honest with those books. I used to take them and put them up under my bunk because the mattresses was like this thin. I sat on their books like they were eggs and I was a hen for almost a year before I read any of them books. Now, eventually, when I started giving people books, you wasn't sitting on my book for more than 2 weeks before I'm at your cell. I mean, you know that? Can I get that book back? Or? Them dudes served me up. They invested in, they poured inside of me, and they didn't have to, but they did.